Alright, let's talk about this new live action adaptation of Moana. Look, ever since this was first announced, I was just kind of like, what? Like, why are we doing this? Especially given the fact that Moana, the animated movie, only came out in 2016. So here we are at basically the 10-year anniversary and they're gonna make a live action version. I mean, sure, I guess it kind of fits for the anniversary of the film, but at the same time, it still just feels unnecessary. And the reason being, and probably my biggest problem with this movie, is if all you're gonna do is basically copy the animated movie almost like shot for shot, then why even bother doing it in the first place? Now, the estimated budget for this movie is around $250 million, which is a pretty hefty budget even by today's standards. The only downside is this movie is only projected to have about a $46 million opening weekend, which is terrible. So to talk a little bit about the cast, we have Catherine Legaya as Moana. I think she was fine as Moana. I think she did a good job with the character. As far as her acting ability, I mean, some of her delivery was kind of flat from time to time, but I would say she passed for a kid's movie. Also, for those of you fellow Star Wars fans out there, did you know that she is the daughter of Jay Legaya, who played Captain Typho in the prequels? I thought that was kind of cool. But now let's talk about The Rock as Maui. Now listen, I think The Rock did fine as Maui in the animated movie. However, I don't think it translated well to live action. Even when I first saw the trailers for this movie and some of the promo, first of all, I think it's just something about The Rock with hair that just kind of throws me off. But also, did you know that The Rock wore a muscle suit for this movie? Now let's just think about this, right? The Rock is like one of the biggest dudes on the planet. Everybody knows him for his muscles and for his size. And it's like, here he is where he's basically going to be shirtless for the entire movie. And they're like, nah, this physique isn't good enough. We gotta have more muscle. God, that's gotta be like so insulting. But apparently this was not too long after he shot The Smashing Machine, and I guess he wasn't exactly in the right physique to play Maui at the time, and he didn't have enough time to bulk up for the role. But as a result of that, and as a result of him, you know, not only wearing the wig, but also the muscle suit on top of that, instead of Maui, it looked like if The Rock dressed up as Maui for Halloween, that's what this would be. It kind of just looked like SNL, honestly. And I'm sorry, but he kind of half-assed the performance. And I know that The Rock seems very passionate about, you know, his heritage and everything, and really wanted to incorporate a lot of that into this character, but it really just didn't come across. It came across very flat, and it seemed like he was just kind of collecting a paycheck. And I would say the acting all around in this movie was just kind of bland. And I think this goes back to why the animated version is so superior, because there are just things that you can do in animation that you just can't quite convey in live action. And that's okay. And that's one of the great appeals of animation as a form of entertainment. I think there's this common misconception that animation is always directly associated with children and with kids. Animation is a storytelling medium all on its own. It's not just for kids. And when you think about it, it's like this is a live action Moana, but at the same time, it's not really live action. And a lot of people made this argument about the Lion King movie, for example. It's like, you know, they made such a big deal about, hey, like, we're making a live action Lion King. And it's like, well, everything on the screen is CGI. It's like, yes, technically they are modeled after the real life animals, but are the animals themselves, are the characters themselves real? No, it's all made by a computer. And it's the same thing with the live action Moana movie. Like, the only real thing I am seeing on the screen is maybe some of the locations, because I know that they did shoot on location in Hawaii for some of the scenes, even though, to be quite honest with you, half the time it just looks like they're standing in front of a green screen. But the only real thing I'm seeing besides that are the actors. So it's like, is it really live action? And this brings me to my main point about all of these live action remakes is the question of why. Like, why do we need this? Again, especially if all you're gonna do is retell the story of the animated movie, I mean, almost down to a T, even down to like repeating the same jokes. It's like, what new thing are you really bringing to the table here? Like, why are we gonna spend $250 million on this rehashed version of the animated movie? Like, it'd be one thing if maybe they wanted to do a different approach to the story of Moana. Like, I would compare it to, they had the TV show The Fresh Prince of Bel-Air. Obviously a sitcom, very comedic, very lighthearted, very goofy. But then, years later, they came out with the Bel-Air TV show, and it was more serious, it was more dark and mature, and it was a different kind of take on the Fresh Prince of Bel-Air, but you still had the same characters. So it's like, in that sense, you are kind of reinventing the narrative a bit. And so if they wanted to do that with Moana and say, just for the sake of argument, I mean, Disney would never do this, but if they were to make like a more mature version of Moana, like say they did want to make it darker or cut out the goofy animal sidekick characters and make it a more mature story, then okay, then you're bringing something new to the table, and that would warrant the live action interpretation if you are going to do something different. But that's the thing, is nothing about this movie brought anything new to the table. And listen, I'm not trying to be so cynical about this, but if you want my honest opinion, I just think Disney just needs to stop with the live action remakes. But at the same time, I understand, because somehow some of them end up making a shit ton of money, like Aladdin and The Lion King and Lilo and Stitch. They find their audience somewhere, somehow, and I guess that's why Disney keeps making them. So anyway, that's my take on this new live action Moana movie. Let me know your thoughts in the comments below if you did go and see this movie. Hope to see you guys on the next one, and as always, catch you later.